I still remember the smell of burnt coffee and copy tone of the morning my world started to crack. It was supposed to be Employee Appreciation Week. Instead, I was standing in the break room watching my boss, Lydia Crane, hand out cheap plastic trophies like she was Oprah, except no one was smiling. "My team," she said with that polished PR grin, "is the heart of this company." Everyone clapped. Everyone but me. My name's Marissa Cole, HR coordinator at Hemsley & Pike Consulting. I'd been there 5 years, long enough to know who actually cared and who just pretended to. I was the kind of person who color-coded calendars, remembered everyone's birthdays, and stayed late to make sure payroll went out on time. I believed in doing the right thing, even when it wasn't convenient. And Lydia was the reason I started questioning if the right thing even mattered. She wasn't always the villain. When I first joined, she was my mentor, sharp, confident, someone I wanted to be. She taught me how to negotiate raises, how to look people in the eye during tough conversations. HR is about trust, she told me once. If people trust you, they'll tell you anything. Funny thing about trust, it's a weapon when it's in the wrong hands. Under Lydia's guidance, the office ran like a machine. Smooth, efficient, but cold. Whispers about her favorites floated through the cubicles, but no one said them out loud. You didn't cross Lydia. You just didn't. I tried not to notice the small things. The way she brushed off complaints about one particular manager. The way certain team outings were invite only. The way new hires with potential suddenly vanished after one-on-one meetings with her. Still, I told myself it was fine. That's what HR people do. We keep the peace, smooth the wrinkles, make things look okay. Until the day someone came to me shaking, mascara smudged, voice trembling, and handed me a formal complaint against one of Lydia's golden boys. I filed it. Followed protocol. Escalated it directly to Lydia herself. She smiled that same PR smile and said, "I'll take it from here." And just like that, silence. A week passed. Then 2. The complainant stopped showing up. Her desk was cleared out before the weekend. When I asked about her, Lydia just shrugged. She wasn't a fit. That's when the first shadow of doubt crept in, quiet but sharp, whispering that maybe, just maybe, the person I trusted most at work wasn't protecting the company. She was protecting someone else. At first, I tried to convince myself it was all just corporate politics. Things get buried sometimes. Reports take time. Maybe Lydia was still handling it, just quietly. That's how she worked, everything behind closed doors, wrapped in NDAs and professionalism. But then, little things started slipping. One Monday morning, I logged into the HR database to check the complaint record. The file was gone. Not misplaced or archived. Completely erased, like it never existed. I stared at the screen, my coffee turning cold in my hand, as if the system itself was gaslighting me. When I asked Lydia about it later, she barely blinked. Must be a server error. It's been doing maintenance. Her tone was casual, but her eyes didn't match her voice. That was red flag number 1. Then came the lunches. Lydia started inviting a select few to the executive dining room, all men, all from the same department as the accused manager. Mentorship sessions, she called them. The rest of us. We were told to focus on retention strategy. I could hear their laughter through the frosted glass walls while I typed up wellness survey results. Red flag number 2. By the end of the week, a memo appeared on the internal portal. All HR-related complaints must now go through the VP of Operations, temporary restructuring for efficiency. Translation: Lydia had cut me out of the loop. And yet, every time I saw her, she smiled like nothing had changed. She still complimented my work, still called me her rock. She even left a sticky note on my monitor one morning that said, "Couldn't do this without you, Yellowheart." That one hurt the most. Because part of me still wanted to believe her, to believe that I was imagining it all. After years of loyalty, coffee chats, and after-hours pep talks, how could she suddenly be the villain in my story? I'd lie awake at night, replaying every conversation, every odd glance, every compliment that now felt more like control. Was she protecting the company? Or protecting herself? Then came red flag number 3. A confidential email, supposedly from the CEO, landed in my inbox about the recent HR restructuring. But when I hovered over the sender's address, it wasn't the CEO's email at all. It was Lydia's. She'd spoofed it. Sent a fake company memo. To me. That's when the ache in my chest became something sharper. Something in me knew Lydia wasn't just covering something up. She was rewriting the truth itself. Still, I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. Because admitting what I suspected meant accepting that the person I trusted most at work, my mentor, my example, might be the reason someone's life, and maybe my own career, was quietly being destroyed. And the scariest part? She was smiling while she did it. The truth didn't explode all at once. It leaked, slow, poisonous, like a cracked pipe behind the drywall. It started with a USB drive. IT was auditing access logs after that server glitch Lydia blamed for the missing complaint. The technician, a quiet guy named Caleb, found me in the hallway one afternoon, his voice low. "You didn't hear this from me," he said, slipping the drive into my palm. "But you might want to see this before it disappears too." When I opened it later, my stomach dropped. Inside were copies of emails, dozens of them, all between Lydia and the accused manager, Brad Mason. The same Brad the complaint had been filed against. The tone wasn't professional. Not even close. There were jokes about training the new girl to know her place. Notes about how Lydia would take care of it if things got messy. Even a message from Lydia that said, "No one will believe her if HR stands down." That's when it hit me. She hadn't just ignored the complaint. She'd buried it, and buried me with it. Because right there in the forwarded email chain, my name was mentioned too. Marissa's soft. "She'll follow protocol. Just stall her until we clean this up." I reread it until the words blurred. Every ounce of faith I'd ever had in her twisted into nausea. Lydia had used me, the rock she claimed she couldn't live without, as her human shield. The face of HR, the one who looked like she cared, while she swept real pain under the rug. I thought about the woman who came to me crying, her voice shaking as she said she felt unsafe. I'd promised her we'd handle it. That HR was there for her. And then I'd handed her complaint straight to the wolf. I couldn't breathe. My reflection in the dark office window looked like a stranger. Eyes wide, mouth trembling, betrayal painted across my face. The next morning, Lydia walked into my cubicle like nothing had happened. "Morning, sunshine," she said, sipping her latte. "Don't forget, team meeting at 2. I stared at her. Really saw her this time. The careful makeup, the diamond watch, the perfect control. She noticed my silence, her smile faltering just a hair. "You okay?" she asked. "Never better," I lied. Inside, something cold and sharp had taken root. Not fear. Not sadness. Something quieter, focused. I copied the files onto a second USB drive and slid it into my wallet. Lydia might control the HR system, the office gossip, even the narrative, but not the truth. As she walked away, her heels clicking down the hall, I whispered to the empty room. "You picked the wrong person to underestimate." And in that silence, for the first time, I stopped being the company's fixer. I became its reckoning. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with a USB drive in one hand and my resignation letter open on the laptop screen. I must have rewritten it a dozen times, each version colder than the last. But every time I tried to hit print, something in me hesitated. Quitting would have been clean, easy, safe. But safe was what Lydia counted on. Around 3 a.m., I pulled out the old employee newsletter Lydia and I had written years ago, back when we were the dream team. In one photo, we stood side by side, smiling, arms around each other. She'd written a note on the back, "To my partner in HR crime, never lose that moral compass of yours. It's what makes you different." That line hit like a punch to the gut. Because somewhere between late-night coffee runs and cover-up memos, I had lost it. I broke down, ugly crying, chest tight, every ounce of anger and betrayal crashing through me. All the times I stayed late cleaning up other people's messes. All the complaints I'd been told to reword. All the women who trusted me to protect them. And I hadn't. That's when the trigger moment came. Not dramatic, not cinematic. Just a memory. The woman who'd filed the complaint, crying in my office, had said, "I just want to be heard." Heard. That one word flipped everything. It wasn't about saving my job anymore. It was about making sure someone listened, even if I had to burn my own reputation to do it. The next morning, I went to work early. The office was quiet, just the hum of printers and the buzz of fluorescent lights. I logged into every system Lydia thought she controlled: payroll, compliance, archives. I knew the passwords. She'd trusted me too well. I found everything: deleted emails, falsified reports, settlement agreements never approved by legal. Lydia had built her own kingdom of lies, and I'd been her crown jewel. But not anymore. I started saving copies to an encrypted drive, labeling each folder with dates and initials. It felt surgical, methodical. Every click, every download was a heartbeat steadying itself. I wasn't shaking now. I was focused. By the time the first employee walked in, I had enough evidence to bury a career, maybe several. I shut my laptop, took a deep breath, and looked around the office that had once felt like home. No more fear. No more silence. Lydia taught me everything she knew about control, but she forgot one thing: loyalty cuts both ways. As I walked past her glass office, I caught my reflection in the door, calm, cold, certain. I wasn't the soft one anymore. This time, HR was going to file a complaint she couldn't ignore. And I wouldn't stop until every truth she buried saw daylight. I treated the next week like a military operation. No melodrama, no crying in stairwells, just lists, timelines, and airtight proof. Revenge, I learned, isn't a tantrum. It's logistics. I catalogued every file on the encrypted drive, timestamping each document and cross-referencing server logs Caleb pulled for me. Deleted messages, shadow emails, settlement drafts with suspicious signatures, everything had a digital footprint. Caleb taught me how to export immutable logs so nothing could be claimed fabricated. We photographed paper trails, recorded voicemail timestamps, and saved copies in 3 separate encrypted cloud vaults I could access outside the company network. You don't topple someone who built a kingdom alone. I reached out to Maya, the woman who'd first walked into my office, and found her living with a cousin 2 towns over. She hadn't come back because she was terrified. I gave her copies of the emails, and more importantly, I gave her agency. If you want to be heard on your terms, I'll stand with you, I told her. Her relief sounded like a release. She agreed to a recorded statement, but only when she was ready. I pulled Caleb in officially by making him a witness. IT had to be on record that the server error was a lie. Tom, the VP of Finance, had been awkward around Lydia for months. He'd noticed irregular payouts labeled consulting fees. I slid him a summary with redacted specifics and watched his expression change from curiosity to alarm. He agreed to freeze any suspicious transactions pending audit. Sophie at reception, the quiet woman who remembered names, became our eyes for in-person comings and goings. Small favors, big returns. Lydia loved control. She ran quarterly town halls where her image was polished and untouchable. I drafted an alternative timeline of events, emails, meeting notes, witness statements, formatted exactly like the comms Lydia used when she wanted to rally the room. Then I did something she never expected. I leaked a single, irrefutable item to legal, a saved draft where Lydia admits to handling the complaint and suggests a hush payment. Legal couldn't ignore legalese. They opened a file. I needed Lydia to keep behaving like herself, confident, chatty, untouchable, so I staged small provocations. An anonymous tip to the company hotline, traced back to an off-site number. A phony request for mentorship that Brad accepted, scheduled in the executive dining room where cameras are thin. I signaled Caleb to monitor that room's access logs during the meeting. If Brad and Lydia started coordinating, we'd have the trail. All the while Lydia smiled, convinced her castle was secure. She replaced me on certain committees and publicly praised the streamlined HR process she'd implemented. She even gave a thumbs up in my direction at the copier, the same smile that used to mean ally. But inside me, calm sharpened into a plan with a pulse. I had witnesses, timestamps, legal interest, and a woman willing to speak. I had a way to connect Lydia's polished persona with the ugly messages on my drive. The final move would be simple and theatrical in equal measure. One carefully timed leak, one official complaint filed in the right place, and someone outside the company, someone with lights and cameras, tipped to show up at the exact moment Lydia tried to clean up her mess. I walked past her office that evening, the building hum settling into quiet, and for the first time watched Lydia feel safe. She poured herself a glass of water, adjusted a picture frame, and closed her laptop. I tucked another copy of the drive into my bag, locked my phone, and whispered to myself the vow I'd made on a sleepless night. I would not rest until the truth lit up that glass tower. Tomorrow, the first domino fell. The air felt electric, like a camera flash about to break the dark. The town hall was everything Lydia loved. Soft spotlights, a curated slideshow, applause on cue. She stepped onto the stage like a queen, polished, practiced, untouchable, and for a beat I felt that old, ridiculous pinch of nostalgia for the woman who once taught me how to speak up in meetings. Then I remembered the emails, the deleted files, the woman who'd vanished. I sat near the back, Caleb at my left, Maya tucked in a row ahead with her hands clenched into fists. Tom and Sophie watched like co-conspirators. My phone was on silent, but inside my throat my pulse sounded like a metronome. This was the stage I'd built, legal on notice, finance freezing suspicious transfers, IT standing by with immutable logs, and one very specific surprise I hadn't told Lydia about. Halfway through her pep talk about transparency and trust, the projector flicked to a slide I didn't prepare. Lydia's practiced smile faltered as her carefully crafted PR copy was replaced by bold black text, internal correspondence, the 4th of December, 25. The next slide was an email she'd written, "No one will believe her if HR stands down." The room hummed. She tried to laugh it off. Then the video played. It was a stitched montage of voicemails, meeting snippets, and the recorded statement Maya had finally given. Her voice steady, naming dates, places, and the man who'd hurt her. Intercut were screenshots of Lydia's spoofed memo, Caleb's export of the access logs, and a scanned draft where Lydia discussed a hush payment. Each clip landed like a brick. The applause that usually followed Lydia's lines died into a valley of murmurs. Lydia stood frozen. For the first time she was the one searching for an ally in the room. Faces looked away. That's when headlights flashed through the glass doors. A news crew, the one I'd tipped off days ago, filed in with cameras and microphones, their presence legal enough to be undeniable. The producer flashed his credential and said, "We're live in 3." A ripple went through the crowd. Phones came up like a field of fireflies. It should have been chaos. Instead, it was surgical. Legal rose from the front row and announced an immediate inquiry. Tom stood and publicly confirmed the frozen transactions and pending audit. Our phone line lit with calls. Lydia mouthed something about procedures, but the syllables had no weight. Brad, who'd been sitting 2 rows behind the execs with the same arrogant smirk, turned pale. The montage included an access log showing him in restricted areas at odd hours, and an email where he joked about training the new girl. He didn't stand to defend himself. No one did. Lydia dragged her hand across her face, the skin of her composure cracking. The room that had fed her image for years evacuated its loyalty in minutes. Her kingdom collapsed not with shouting, but with silence, a slow, deliberate draining of the oxygen of belief. When the cameras pushed in, she looked small, mouth open, eyes wide with a kind of betrayed confusion that isn't really shock at all, but the realization that the world she engineered no longer bends for her. The woman who taught me trust now had nowhere to hide. I felt an odd, aching hush settle over me, a mix of vindication and grief. The trophies in Lydia's office, the sticky notes, the late-night pep talks, they all looked like props in a play I'd been cast in without consent. Maya's hand found mine and squeezed. We didn't cheer. We simply watched as justice, slow and inevitable, stepped into the light. Outside, the night air felt different when I stepped out of the building. Cold, clean. The cameras continued to roll. For a moment, Lydia stood framed by flashing lights and glass, utterly alone. Justice can be loud, but sometimes it arrives as silence. In the days that followed the town hall, the building felt like a ghost of itself. HR, once the polished heart of the company, had turned into the epicenter of whispers, investigations, and resignation letters. Lydia's name, once spoken with reverence, became an echo no one wanted to claim. By Monday, her office was stripped bare. The glass door still bore her nameplate, but the desk inside sat empty. No perfume, no trophy, no photos. Just dust and a single sticky note stuck to the monitor. It said, "Always control the narrative." Except this time, she couldn't. Corporate released a statement the next day. An internal review has revealed serious misconduct involving senior management. Appropriate legal measures are being taken. They didn't name Lydia or Brad, but everyone knew. The news segment had already gone viral. The clip of Lydia's face mid-slide change had become the internet's newest meme for when HR meets karma. I should have felt triumphant. And I did, in flashes. Seeing Maya smile again, watching her name cleared and her voice amplified, that was worth everything. Caleb got an anonymous commendation from legal for his data integrity assistance. Tom was promoted to acting head of HR, and his first order of business was reinstating proper complaint procedures, unfiltered, transparent, and public. But beneath the satisfaction was something else, a kind of quiet grief. Revenge doesn't bring back what you lost. It just returns balance. Justice feels less like victory and more like exhale. I stayed late one evening, clearing out old files, when I found a photo tucked behind a cabinet, Lydia and me, laughing at some office party years ago. My thumb hovered over her smile before I tossed it into the shred bin. Not out of hatred. Out of closure. I walked out of that building for the last time with no trophies, no fanfare. Just my name cleared and my conscience finally unburdened. Maya met me outside, holding 2 coffees. Feels weird, she asked. Yeah, I said, watching the reflection of the building shimmer in the glass doors. But weird can be good. It means something changed. The story trended online for a week before the world moved on, as it always does. Lydia disappeared from LinkedIn. Rumor said she tried to start her own firm, but no one would touch her. Reputation, it turns out, doesn't come with severance. As for me, I joined a non-profit that helps whistleblowers navigate corporate retaliation. Fewer glass walls, more humanity. It's quieter work, but it matters. Sometimes, when I file a report or review a case, I still hear Lydia's old line echoing in my head, HR is about trust. She was right about that. She just forgot. Trust isn't power, it's responsibility. And when you abuse it, it's the truth that writes your ending. If you've ever trusted someone who turned your loyalty into leverage, I want to hear your story. Tell me, have you ever had to take justice into your own hands when no one else would listen? Speech balloon, drop your story in the comments. Someone out there might need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more true-to-life stories of betrayal, courage, and poetic justice. Because sometimes, the truth doesn't whisper. It shows up with a camera crew. Move a camera briefcase.